Hello everyone, I am Yuga. I am the founder of Bridging Teas Collegian, and today I'm very happy to have this opportunity to talk with Meilun Yu. She is the elected student trustee for the York Region District School Board for the year of 2023 to 2024. Let's welcome her.
Hi, thank you so much, Yuga. Glad to be on this show with you. And really looking forward to discussing with you today.
So our first question today, from a large pool of competitors, how did you put yourself out there into people's attention?
Yeah, for sure. So how the process of student trustee goes is that there are, well, at least in my term, there was 2 rounds of elections. So first in your district, and then you get selected into Final Four. So 4 people with the most amount of votes get to Final Four, and then you get a board-wide election and like a discussion panel where you can talk about your platform to your voters, and then whoever gets the most amount of votes out of top 4, then you get elected as the new student trustee. And there's 2 student trustees and an indigenous student trustee. So I guess how I put myself out there is that I made myself relatable, as someone who's running to represent student voice. I want to show the other kids in the board that I'm a student too. I'm not just like a robot or a machine who's going to be their trustee. I'm going to represent their views as a student, right? So I talked a lot about, honestly, some of my hobbies. I'm a student athlete too, which a lot of my voters can relate to, because that means I can advocate for mental health and physical health from the perspective of a student athlete, right? I'm involved in Model UN and debate, and a lot of, my voters, they're passionate about that too. So obviously they would like to see someone represent their wishes, and I just show them that, like, I'm one of you guys, and I have like a lot of the same perspectives as you. I'm not just like a robot. And I think that's what kind of set me apart in a way. But I think that all student trustees should be doing that, because at the end of the day, like, who are you representing? You're representing other students, right? Yeah.
I totally agree with what you said. In order for students to agree with you, you need to stand in their perspective in order to solve problems together. So, what was your primary purpose of being a student trustee? Is there any goals or accomplishments you're looking for?
Yeah, so why I wanted to be a student trustee in the first place is because I think I was able to represent a lot of voices that were not heard in my school board. For example, I'm an immigrant to Canada, right? I know what it's like to learn English from scratch. I know what it's like to not fit in. I even built like a nonprofit advocating for immigrants and immigrant students. And I think that that's a voice that's really missing in the school board. It's the voice of immigrants, and I thought I could bring that as well. Like, I was already very involved in my school's athletic council, student council. I attended a lot of the general assemblies of the York Region President's Council, so I was already in a position where I was hearing a lot of student voice. I was hearing a lot of concerns from my peers that they wanted me to make change for them. I just didn't have the platform, right? And I think student trustee was that platform that I could use to make change on behalf of my peers who confided in me. Yeah.
You said that you created a nonprofit for the immigrants. What exactly is it about?
Yeah, for sure. So just a disclaimer, this has nothing to do with YRDSB or the school board or my position as student trustee. This is one of the extracurriculars that I involved myself in. So the year of 2021, I created a nonprofit called The New Gen. Basically, we advocate for equity and education, especially for immigrant, refugee, newcomer, and indigenous youth. So we provide free STEM and arts classes online to newcomer students, just to get them interested in an academic subject and to kind of help them create like friendship groups, a sense of community. And we've been partnering with immigration centers across 9 provinces and territories in Canada to help their students in these immigration centers access our services. We also run art competitions and displays for Indigenous, newcomer, refugee artists, and young people who are looking for opportunities to display their talent. So that's just something we've been doing since 2021. We're also open for high school volunteers as well. We have a team entirely composed of high school students. So we have no adults. It's fully youth-run, youth-led for youth. And yeah, that's just something I do outside of school.
That sounds amazing. So, as a student trustee, you probably met and interacted with many different people with many different opinions. So, what do you think are the most important in communication and interaction, especially with people you're not familiar with?
Right, good question. I think that this is something a lot of people who want to be student trustee, this is something they don't really consider, is just the amount of different perspectives that you're going to hear. I just say keep an open mind, because you're going to be working with people from the school board. You're going to be working with your peers in the school board, so other students. You're going to be working with your co-trustee. You're going to be working with student trustees from across Ontario. I've met people from Barrie, from Timmins, right? And it's just, there's so many different opinions that you have to keep in mind, because as a student trustee, you're trying to influence policy and practices in the school board, not just for yourself, not just for your own views, but you're trying to give an equitable representation of all students. How are you going to do that if you don't hear out opinions that you might not agree with? And I think that a big part of being a student trustee is putting aside your own opinions, your own biases, because you're not always right, to listen to your constituents and to listen to the other people on the board that you work with.
Thank you for sharing that. So, I heard that you have done a lot of extracurriculars and things outside of school. How do you seek opportunities, and once you've gained them, how do you choose between them, like what's suitable for you?
All right, thank you for that question. I think that's a really good question, because personally for me, the things that I do outside of school, I don't really consider them like an extracurricular list that like I have to fulfill. I think that the way I choose what I do outside of school, how I spend my time, is purely based on what I'm interested in and the issues that I think are like so important, I have to take my time to help solve. For example, the new gen, right? I didn't create this nonprofit because I thought, okay, this is an extracurricular, I have to do an extracurricular. No, I realized from a very young age, since I was 4, that immigrant students have a hard time in schools because they're not given the proper community, they're not given the proper support, they're not given like the same amount of academic opportunities. That was an issue that was so pressing to me because I personally experienced it, that I wanted to spend my free time advocating for it. Because if you like break down the word extracurricular and what it means is, what do you do outside of school? Well, this is just something I actively choose every single day to devote my time to after school because I believe in the cause, right? So I think that's a really big part, I guess, of why someone would do an extracurricular is, do you believe in that cause? Another thing is hobbies, right? So I used to kickbox competitively, and I have a license to be an assistant coach for it. Why do I do that? Why do I spend my time doing that instead of, I don't know, staying home and watching Netflix? Is because I like it. Simple as that. I really like kickboxing. The sport makes me feel alive, right? And I'd rather do that than, let's say, watch Netflix at home. I'm in a rock band, for an example. Most people will not even consider that an extracurricular because in a traditional sense, it's not an extracurricular that will boost your resume, but it is something I devote my time to do outside of school because I love rock music. I love performance. So I guess you really need to redefine what an extracurricular is. It's not just something on a list to boost your resume. It's doing something that makes your heart happy and makes you feel like, wow, I made the world a better place because I chose to devote my time to doing a certain thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, what do you think for a leader the 3 most important traits are? And please rank them from most important to least important, and tell us the reasoning for this ranking.
Right. So first off, I think that leadership can take a lot of different forms. It can be applied to a lot of different situations, and each situation calls for a different trait. But this is just from my personal experience as a leader. I think number 1 most important trait is grit, is tenacity, because you need to be able to withstand any obstacle as a leader. You have an entire team depending on you. You have other people that are going to lose hope in your vision, lose hope in your mission. But you as a leader, you cannot give up. That is the number 1 thing, at least for me, that I think a good leader has to be. A good leader has to have grit, because while all of your teammates can be abandoning ship, but you're the captain. The captain can't go overboard. The captain can't abandon ship, or else that ship is not going to go anywhere. It's going to sink, right? You're not going to get to your destination if you jump overboard at the first sign of an obstacle. And most importantly, all your teammates are relying on you, right? You have to be the one that says, hey guys, we can't give up now. This is our moment. This is our time. We can reevaluate what we're doing, but we cannot give up. You have to be the last person standing always as a leader. So I think grit is number 1. Number 2, I would have to say compassion. Yeah, number 2, second most important thing for a leader is compassion. You have to listen to your team. I cannot stress that enough. As a student trustee, most of my time I spend as a listener and not a speaker, because how are you going to decide a future path for a team if you don't hear their vision first, right? You have to take everyone's opinions into account, because you're leading a team. You're not going solo, right? A leader is not a solo worker. A leader is a part of a team, and team comes first always, no matter what. So being compassionate and being able to listen to what other people are saying, very important. That's why I put it number 2 right after grit. And I say lastly is courage. As a leader, you have to have a lot of that, because oftentimes you're doing something that no one has ever done before. That's what makes you a leader. That's what makes you a pioneer in your field, is you're doing something, you're taking on a challenge no one has ever done before. That's scary. You're going to need a lot of bravery and courage to not only go down an unknown path yourself, but to lead an entire team down an unknown path, right? And I guess that's what inspires other people to want to work with you, to want to be in your team, is the courage that you have as a leader. So that's number 3. Yeah.
Thank you. So, as a leader and you're leading your team, you guys will definitely face a lot of challenges, as you said, and also obstacles, and we shouldn't give up. So, do you have any specific examples of, for example, challenges or difficult situations that you have been through, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, for sure. I would say this is a challenge that I faced outside of school, student trustee. So this is an extracurricular challenge. So, for my nonprofit, we did an event called the Northern Youth Art Gallery. Basically, it was an art display for Indigenous and Inuit youth from Nunavut, the Yukon and Northwest Territories. And the goal was to ship their artwork from the north down south, all the way to put on a display here in Markham for a week. And a big challenge that I faced was that my team didn't believe in me. That's why I say grit is number 1. When your team doesn't believe in the mission or the vision, you have to, because they thought it was a really big mission, right? As an organization, we only focused on immigrant, newcomer, refugee youth. This is our first time branching out to help Indigenous and Inuit communities. It was a new field. We never tried it before, and it was a big undertaking, because we wanted this art gallery to be 100% free for our participants. We didn't want our young artists to pay a cent to send their artwork down south. So that means a lot of fundraising. That means reaching out to organizations in Nunavut, Yukon, the Northwest Territories, where they might not have the internet capacity that we do. So we just faced hardship at every turn, whether that's communicating with our young artists or getting the funding needed to make this 100% cost-free, or even just going in this new direction. My team really lost faith in me. So I think that was a really big setback. But you have to just keep going forward, keep encouraging them, keep trying new things. And eventually we made it through. We've managed to make contact with 5 different young artists up there. We've managed to raise over 3.5K in funding, and we actually managed to make this art display 100% cost-free for our participants. And I think that overcoming this challenge really made my team realize that we can take on bigger issues, we can take on bigger events, and they just have to have faith. So yeah, that's a little failure story for me.
That's great, Meilun. So, facing challenges is definitely not easy. So, did you know that, like, putting this event will be successful? Or, like, were you 100% sure or mostly sure that it will be successful?
Oh no, I'm not 100% sure about anything I do, to be completely honest. I guess going into this event, the only thing I could hope for was to make the most amount of impact possible. If the event didn't go on as I expected to go, if we had to change something really big about the event, the only thing I can hope for and I can expect is I still make a difference in someone else's life. I can still help these young artists. Maybe that means I have to move the event virtually to make it happen. I don't know. But yeah, I always go into every event with the mindset that something might not go the way I want it to go, and that's okay. And I feel like that's also really an important part of being a leader, is being able to adapt, to not expect everything to go right. Because you gotta expect anything. If you always expect this is how things are going to go, you're always going to be disappointed. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing us about your experience, and I learned a lot from you today. So thank you for coming into this interview today, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much, Yuga. And it's amazing that you're doing this initiative. I think that it's really important to build a platform like you did, so other young people who want to lead, who want to take on bigger challenges, can have virtual mentors to turn to, I guess. And for everyone who's watching, if you have any questions or if you want to talk, feel free to reach out to me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.